rung me at home, and I was asleep even though it was 10:30. And so, long story short, she got in contact with my mum, and pretty soon, like, it was all set up, and it was that much more exciting because it was so close already, like, and it's so unexpected. So, the first thing about it, it was a 3-hour train ride and a 6-hour bus ride. It was funny, as I got on the bus was full, and like as we kept going and going and going, eventually there was just me and one other person on the whole bus. This is my first time in the Australian outback because I had just moved. I'd been living in America and just had moved back to Australia a year ago, nearly. So this is my first time in an environment like this. So even on the bus ride, I just had my face pressed against the window, like looking out at this, like all this new kind of place, which might seem average to somebody who's seen it so many times before, but to me it was really amazing. And when we got there, we also talked a lot about forest fires that had kind of devastated Coonabarabran a year ago in January, which was really sad, but interesting because I had never known a place that had been so, that forest fires had such an impact on. So that was something that I had already learnt, nothing to do with astronomy, but so that was really fantastic. And then Coonabarabran is the small town where Siding Spring Observatory is located. And you can tell that the whole town kind of has a feel for astronomy. We looked at these graphs where it's showing how Coonabarabran citizens, they keep their lights turned down at night because light pollution seriously deters observational, like, of the telescope. So, and they, as you drive in, they have this proportional model of the solar system, which is fantastic. So, the observatory. Oh, I have a pointer. There's the observatory. So, as you come in from all different angles, you see all the different planets. So, we tried to find all of them. We didn't, but we tried. And they have different facts about them, how they were discovered, why. So, even as you're just driving in, you're already learning all these new things about astronomy. So another thing about the community really being involved in astronomy, this man named Peter Starr, who specialises in stars, that's a coincidence. It is a coincidence. This is his house, and he just has this Warrumbungle Observatory built in the front lawn of his house. So we just walked down the road from the motel that we were staying at to this Warrumbungle Observatory, and it was quite an amazing experience because the telescopes were very advanced, small but advanced, and we were just right in there, like it was just him and his daughter, his like toddler daughter was running around, and we were just casually like observing some of the closest stars to our solar system, which was so great because I had never used telescopes like that before. Actually, I'd never really used any telescopes before I went to this astronomy camp. I just read about it in textbooks and things. So that was really, really special. And we learned a lot about stars before we even went to Siding Spring Observatory, which was the main reason why we were there. So this is Siding Spring Observatory, which is built on top of a mountain so that they can avoid these like clouds from the lower atmosphere. They have, I think, 13 telescopes that all have different functions, different sizes, built at different times. They have the main telescope, which is called the Anglo-Australian Telescope, which I'll get to later. We didn't go into all the telescopes. We drove past them on a little bus tour and learnt all about them. So on our first day at the observatory, they have this exhibit where you can do these interactive activities. They have these milk jars that you pick up, and they get progressively heavier based on the simulation of what planet's gravity you would be in. So you get to these massive planets and you can't even pick up the milk jugs, like, because the gravity is so intense. So that was really fun. And they have this thing, these two photos here, are of something that they have called iTelescope, which is something that I had never heard of, and I'm sure many of you guys haven't, which is a website where you can pay and you log on and you use the telescopes. You say, I would like to observe this nebula or star or whatever it is using this telescope, and I'll pay for it, and I would like to take a photo. So that's just, to me, amazing technology that you can just log on and say, oh, I'd like to look at this. So we did it. We went to the Coonabarabran High School, which was very generous in giving us a bus, and we went to their high school computer lab and spent like 2 hours trying to figure out how to take a photo. But we did it, and I don't have a photo of the photo. I'm sorry, but it was awesome. It was of this nebula called an Eagle Nebula, which is basically just lots of really pretty colours and sparkles, and it was fantastic. And we kind of made friends with the guy who runs it, so he gave us free subscriptions to it. So that was good. So that was just the first day. Or maybe it wasn't the first, it was like the first couple of days. Anyway, they had, like Graham was saying before, Starfest, which is when they run the camp, which is an annual celebration of Siding Spring and the telescopes and astronomy. And it's fantastic, and it's special this year because it was the 50-year anniversary of the Anglo-Australian Telescope. So, the whole day, the open day, which is when they invite people to just come in, look at the telescope. You know, they had all of these tents set up where you could do these interactive activities, and we went up to the top of the telescope there and walked around, and we were just walking around, and we were in such close proximity with really renowned scientists. You just start chatting to someone and they turn out to be like a chief engineer at the telescope or something, and like talking to people who'd spent entire nights just staying up, sitting inside the telescope, taking photos all night. I didn't know that was a job, but that sounds like a possible career move. So the open day was probably the best day because it had lots of different aspects. We were free to just walk around. Oh, I should have said at the beginning, there were about 8 or 9 of us who were there from all different parts of Australia. Actually, 2 people who were there were exchange students, so one was from Austria and one was from Germany. So along with learning about astronomy, I also learnt about Austrian and German culture, which was cool. So on the open day, so that is the Anglo-Australian Telescope, and that's where they sit to take the photos at night. And throughout the day, they had these lectures running. So here's one where you just go in and sit in quite close proximity to the speaker. It's pretty casual. I'm sitting on the floor down there. That up there is a man named Fred Watson, who is an engineer at the, some people are nodding their heads, yeah. So he's an author. I read one of his books before I went. It was very nice. I had a hat signed with his name, and he plays guitar as well. He's just all around an awesome person. I'm happy I met him. So that was his lecture, and there were half-hour lectures running throughout the day. So I learnt just in those lectures, not even in the whole camp, more than I had ever learnt about astronomy my whole life. There were specialised fields, like how big the universe is, what happens when galaxies collide, what a black hole is, computer science in astronomy. It was so cool. And this man, whose last name I forget, his name was Bob, but he asked me to go on the radio during the open day. He was running this radio show from a trailer, and I was really nervous. I was like, I can't go on the radio. No, I can't. But I did. And he just wanted to talk about my perspective on astronomy, how I was enjoying Starfest, how I was enjoying Rise Stars, if I wanted to become an astronomer, things like that. So I talked to him on the radio, and it was very weird talking and then hearing my voice coming out of the radio, so that kind of freaked me out a little bit. But it was really good. And then he gave me cake afterwards, so it was totally worth it. But then later I went back because we were doing this scavenger hunt that they had. It was for little kids, but we wanted to do it too, where you just go around the open day and get the answers to the scavenger hunt. So I went back to ask him about an answer on the scavenger hunt, and he was talking to this man here, and I was just like, hey, blah blah blah, scavenger hunt, blah blah blah. We started talking, and I was talking to that man, and we were just chatting and laughing and talking for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we had to go, and he had to go. And then later I was at a lecture, and this man turns out to be a Nobel Prize winner, Brian Schmidt, and I was like, what? I wish I had said something smarter. I don't remember what I said. But he did one of those lectures, which was just mind-blowing. I think he won the Nobel Prize for using supernova to predict that the universe is expanding at an accelerating rate or something like that, something very intelligent. So his contribution, I'd like to say, he told me that the Rise Stars acronym was a bit far-fetched. So that's what he had to say. So that was the open day, which was fantastic. And with like I said before, we were just walking around talking to lots of different people and meeting lots of different kinds of people who specialise in different jobs in astronomy. And it wasn't as if like here is the telescope. Well, it wasn't as if here was the telescope and like here's a glass wall and then here's you like squinting up at it. Well, it was kind of like that with the Australian Anglo-Australian telescope, but with all the like the smaller ones, which are not small, they're big, but the smaller ones, you could just walk. We were just walking like amongst all the machinery. I was like keeping my elbows in like this because I was worried that I was gonna like hit something and break it. But so just like it was really in depth, like interactive. You weren't just listening to people talk. You were there, like learning about it, doing it, which was fantastic. The next day, they had this Bock lecture, which is another part of Starfest, and it's in honour of Bart Bock, who worked at the astronomy when it was at the observatory when it was founded. Because it's the 50th anniversary, they had someone very special this year, Andy Thomas, the Australian astronaut, and his lecture was just completely amazing. He had these videos. I got a terrible photo, but he had these videos of, you know, when he was on the Russian space station and told us all about how he wanted to become an astronaut, how he became one, you know, his experiences in space, which is not something that you hear from a lot of people, and like his life now that he's retired from NASA. So that was amazing. And then here's all the Rice Stars kids who were crowding up to him asking for his autograph. I went up and I was like, here's his autograph. I was like, Jen, say something smart, say something with big words. And I said, your talk was so good. And then I was like, no, why did you do that? But it was fantastic. One of my friends asked, lots of people were asking really fancy sciencey questions, really like intense physics knowledge, and one of my friends asked, what happens when you sneeze in a spacesuit? Which I'll never forget the answer to that, which is like they have a little like pad, but anyway, I'm not going to get into detail, but I just thought that was funny. So the day before the open day, they had all the people who worked at the observatory were busy getting ready for the open day, so they didn't have time for us, basically. So we had one day where we just went out and explored non-astronomy related areas of Coonabarabran. So we saw these remains of some prehistoric mammal that was found in Coonabarabran. We went to this German pottery farm, which was kind of big juxtaposition between talking to all these renowned scientists and then talking to these potters, so that was nice. And then we went on this hike, which I was like, oh, you're going to force a bunch of dorky astronomy kids to go on a like 2-hour hike in the sun, but it was fantastic. It was really nice, like seeing the new environment, and so that day was really good as well. We stayed for the first half in a little hotel, and for the second half in the house, all of us, of the Rotarian who was in charge of us, whose name was Jo Wilkins, I believe was her last name. And she was an absolutely gorgeous lady. She made us this huge thing of cookies, like a container like this big, and we ate all of them. And she like cooked us food, and she was just a lovely lady and took us everywhere. And all the Rotarians that we met actually were really nice. They gave us lots of free merchandise, these hats and like atlases and stargazing charts. We didn't have Wi-Fi or TV where we were staying, which was ostensibly like a big blow, but actually it was fantastic because we did other things, like went outside and there was a big field, like there was so much open space behind the hotel. There was just a big field, so we went outside and played tennis or basketball, or I learned how to play cards. And we there was one night where we just built our own telescopes and went outside into the middle of the field, and we turned off all the lights of the building of the motel because there wasn't that many people staying and it was late at night. We just stayed out on these blankets and just looked up at the stars and the planets late into the night, and it was just beautiful. Like, it was a really fantastic experience, simple but fantastic, something that you would never experience here because you just can't see the stars here like you can there. And I met so many interesting people, whether it be like the astronomers who were so passionate about what they were doing, and they were obviously so happy with like the careers that they had chosen, all very, very smart and intelligent people, and very inspiring. I learned a lot about the jobs that are available if you study astronomy, which I didn't really know about before. And so that was fantastic. I really learned a lot more about astronomy than I ever had known before, and